I'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is request or assignment for request for council action. We have 1555 dangerous dog ordinance, 1556 MOU Medina County Public Transit, 1557 amending section 13301 association memberships, Enviro Cert, 1557 amending section 1558 amending section 13301 association memberships, building officials, 1559 amending section 13301 association memberships, International Code Council, 1560 professional service agreement for Delta Airport Consultants, 1561 Reagan Park baseball field renovations, 1562 Bicentennial Commons landscape enhancements, 1563 wellness agreement amendment with the hospital, 1564 ODNR contract for funding handicap parking spaces, 1565 budget amendment, 1566 amending section 13301 association memberships, 1567 payment over 3000 Trident Insurance Services, 1568 bids for 2015 concrete street repair, 1569 bids for 2015 concrete pavement joint sealing, 1571 agreement with Wheeling ORDC PUCO West Smith Railroad Crossing, 1573 authorized bid Medina County Recyclables, and one item for health, safety, and sanitation, 1572 amending salaries and benefits code 3105 communications operator police. First item we have is 149 from the previous meeting, or from the Health, Safety, and Sanitation Committee meeting, SPCA Animal Welfare Services 2014 and 2015. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. President. As everybody knows, the SPCA asked for another increase in the amount of donation that the city was required to give them in 2014. That sum was just under $21,000. A little bit of history. Prior to 2010, we had been given $2,500 a year for many years prior to that. 2011, we went to $4,500, an 80% increase. 2012, $9,000, a 100% increase. 2013, $15,825, 76% increase for in those 4 years, a grand total of around 600% increase. We thought that that'd be a little exorbitant, so we started looking into things. I held several meetings with Mr. Marcus, the president of the board of the SPCA. We reviewed the intake logs, some historical financials, and some current financials. It is clear the intake information was not kept in a format where that would allow the city of Medina to do the type of analysis needed to determine if the intake was exactly, in fact, in the city limits. The financials were lacking in the detail necessary to help determine why there was an 89% increase in salaries over a 2-year time frame. Mr. Marcus revealed that the reason was attributed to hiring of workers instead of using volunteer workers. We looked at why the other costs were increased. The previous executive director was using paid veterinary personnel instead of using voluntary veterinary personnel. The impact of the decommissioning of the gas chamber was also discussed. It was agreed that this single act had a tremendous negative impact on the Medina County SPCA, and the cat intake soared. Mr. Marcus stated that the organization is working towards increasing the contributions from residents via the change cans, if you will, near cash registers and the like. He's also working with the local pet stores to provide some forms of assistance in terms of cat foods, dog foods, and other supplies. Also, we revealed that there were a number of wild animals, raccoons, squirrels, rabbits, and the like that were taken in the intake account. We think that those should be handled differently. So a couple of things that we agreed to with the SPCA to help determine that the intake is in fact within the city limits. They're going to include at the minimum a block number. So if they find a stray cat on the 100 block of North Court Street, that'll be recorded. If that type of information cannot be, they're going to take the person's address for where they live as the point of intake. So if the person lives in the city, it'll be counted in the city. One of the townships, it'll be counted in the township. Wild animals will not be counted in the city count any longer. The organization will continue to solicit donations from the general public, and the government shouldn't be relied upon for the bulk of their support. And continued work will be done to improve the management of the organization, and with their cost cutting, we did note that there was a decrease in their salaries to below $150,000 for 2014. So they are working towards improving their numbers. Okay, so it was recommended and voted on by the committee that we we donate to the SPCA $7,500 for the year 2014 and $7,500 for the year 2015.
And remember, part of the confusion, I think, as Paul indicated, is that the SPCA facility is located within the city boundaries. So they were counting whoever brought an animal, that was a city animal. Some of the other things we talked about, we have a little disagreement on, is if they find a cat, a pregnant cat in the city, and then it has a litter while it's at the SPCA, and has a litter of 6, we add six more to the city count, because it had a litter while it was in the SPCA. And I don't know if that's really true, meaning we should pay for that, or if it was 1 cat that was brought in instead of 7. So those are things that still need to look at, because there's a couple on there that, of course, those make the numbers a lot higher if pregnant cats are brought in, and all of a sudden you ended up with 3 cats brought in, and then you have 18 or something like that, because they're all pregnant. So, but I think Paul did a great job working and trying to solve the issues and getting better information as far as how many animals really do come from the city only and not from the surrounding townships. So, questions?
No, that's shines a lot of light on, I think, on the issue, because I know I have looked at it, I guess, in 2 different ways. Two elements anyway. One is the operational element, and one is the emotional element, because they're these animals. But I think, what I read earlier about the discrepancy in the numbers, I think that the $7,500 contribution for the 2 year, for each of the 2 years is probably more realistic and in line with it, as long as the organization can follow, I think, the prescription that you have so that we know exactly what's being picked up and where it's being picked up and what we're paying for. Because it is a good service for us to have. It would, and as we talked about before, if we had to do it ourselves, it would cost a lot more money. But I think the most significant thing is what the information you put together, so that now we can go forward with some, I think, comfort level that we're paying for a service that we're getting, and also a service that we want, not something that, we really didn't know what was being picked up, what we were being paid for. And as you pointed out, we did make a huge increase in the contribution that we made to this organization over the last few years. So yeah, that was a good job. Good.
Thank you.
I'll just speak. I mean, I think the whole committee told them that we want to be fair for the services that are rendered. We just need proof that was in the city, but we want to be fair with them. And like Bill said, all did a good job finding those numbers and with the actual expenses.
Anything else?
Just one thing. So for those of us that were at the meeting, we heard this, but maybe some that weren't. The other thing they do is when these animals get in is they are not released for adoption without being spayed, neutered, and dewormed, and getting all the proper shots. That's very important in the city, because since the transition of the county doing away with the gassing of the cats, the population in the city has grown exponentially. So the fact that these cats being injected back into the community are fixed to where they don't continue to overpopulate helps. The other thing they shared with us is some of these cats are pretty much wild. They're captured in the wild, they've been in the wild their whole life, and they try to get more to be conducive to people and pets, but some of them just aren't. So then they reserve those for persons looking for farm cats. and let them out on the farms to where they're not interacting with people, but they're still providing a service out there by keeping the rodents and so forth out. So it sounds like they're doing a great job of trying to take a large problem and kind of control it from here on out. I think we'll see the benefit of that in years to come.
I will make a motion for a total contribution of $15,000, which represents $7,500 for 2014 and $7,500 for 2015.
Second. Any other questions?
With the emergency clause?
Is there an emergency clause requested?
No. And I'm on the only one, sorry.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next item we have is dangerous dog ordinance 1555. Mayor?
Thanks. We had a report of a dog complaint where one dog bit another dog, and that caused Matt Lanier from our law department to take a look at the city's local ordinances and found out they're in conflict with the state law. And there's also a state law that specifically, that 955.221, specifically prohibits the city from having any local ordinances in conflict with it. That being said, the recommendation from the law department was that we do away with ours and simply follow the state law, because even if we mirror the state law, each time it changes, then we got to come back and just keep going back and forth, because ours is unenforceable again until we get it back in compliance with them. Sometimes these things change with little notice to us until we go back to the book the next time and see what they did. So.
The only question I had, I don't know, Bill, if your committee special legislation, is there's any other issues with the dangerous or vicious dogs beyond the state regulations that we as a city or incorporated in our ordinances that are...
It can't be.
Oh, I mean...
It can't be any different than the state.
Oh, it has to be...
It can't be even more restrictive, like other laws are. This 955.221 says the city is prohibited from having local ordinances in conflict with the state law.
Period.
Yes, sir. Right.
All right, well
So mine's our
then, your committee, good job.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No.
I asked for the emergency clause because our local ordinances today, as they stand, are simply unenforceable as a result of that.
Questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second, including emergency clause.
All in favor with the emergency clause?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 1556, memo of understanding with Medina County Public Transit.
Yeah, I can do that real quick.
That's fine.
This is just to, for funding for this calendar year for 2015 is to, and I think it's part of our FY14 CDBG allocation as well, is that this has to be on the books to allow us to use those federal dollars to help offset the $45,000 that we are to contribute to the overall, and then another $250 by the county commissioners. So it's pretty straightforward, just kind of doing what we've done in past years when we have those federal dollars coming in.
This was an agreement that we signed on an annual basis. You may recall they asked the cities to increase what we were paying, and we asked them to then include in the memorandum of understanding that they would commit to the $250,000, the commissioners. So that is in the agreement. They stand by their $250,000 contribution, and we give $45,000 towards that.
Does it indicate if there's any change in the services to be provided within the city, or is it the same services?
The agreement doesn't mention that, but I did speak with Mike Salmon, who is the director for the transit, and they are doing away with their Brunswick route because it just was not having a ridership. So because of them doing away with that, they're going to have 3 routes in the city versus the existing 2. So we're actually going to gain a route for the same amount of money. So.
And that's because, I guess, ridership in the city is probably more, of course, than Brunswick. But,
Yes, sir.
And we're having do we know, has it been increasing or pretty steady? Does he have any numbers on that, do we know, or do we know?
I'm sure he does, but I didn't ask him that question, so I'm sorry. I don't know that.
Okay. And the money coming to the general fund, I think it's general administration, I don't know what line item it's at. We have an account number here, but,
I think it's this, well, there's two numbers. One is the CDBG,
right?
and the other is general fund.
But that's general administration, some line item out of
Yes.
general admin.
We've been splitting that up between those two for years.
No, contractual services, I would imagine, or something. I don't know what that, okay. Any questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there an emergency? No. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 1557, amending section 13301, association memberships for EnviroCert.
Mr. President,
Yes, it is.
I just want to address this generally, and then the specifics we can move on, but items 5, 6, 7, and 14 all concern association memberships. It's the same code section, 13301. We periodically have to come for updates on this because the code requires that for any of these memberships, the organization has to be approved by council. So a couple of these are name changes because if an organization is known as the Association of this, and then the Ohio Association of this, and then change to the Association of this of Ohio, it's not in our code, so we have to bring it back. And then there may be a few more of these, because I had mentioned at the last staff meeting to the department heads, a lot of times department heads assume that because they have the money, this is okay, but then when it comes to finance, we say, well, we can't do this until you get it approved. So I asked everybody to kind of look and see if there's any updates they need to make, but that's why all of these are before you. It's not because the money's sufficient that it needs to come to council, but because the way the code's written, each membership has to be approved separately by council. So I just want to point out there are 4 of these on the agenda tonight, 5, 6, 7, and 14, and then I talked to Kathy. I think this is all going to be one ordinance because we're just going to be updating that code section in general. We're not going to have 4 different ordinances.
Well, let's take them all together then, and we'll vote on it one time. We'll take 1557, 1558, 1559, and 1566 regarding amending the association memberships. The first one is EnviroCert. It looks like that's a new one that we're adding to the building department, correct?
Building department, city engineer.
Okay. And the next one is BOCNEO. What's that, Boco Neo?
Building Officials Conference of Northeast Ohio.
Okay,
That's the building official and the building inspectors.
right. And the next one is an International Code Council,
Right.
which is the building officials again.
Yes, sir.
And then the final one is the various.
This final one came from finance. Heritage Ohio is for the city as a whole. And then for the clerk of council and/or deputy clerk, we have the Tri-County Municipal Clerks Association, Recreation Director, Medina Senior Services Network, Cable Television, you see there, Alliance for Community Media of Ohio and Kentucky. And then for finance, we have a name change between Ohio Chapter of Municipal Treasurers Association to Ohio Association of Public Treasurers.
Okay. All right, any questions on all those different modifications?
Move to approve the 4 requests for council actions for association membership name changes or additions.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, 1560, agreement with Delta Airport Consultants, amendment number 5. Is that Mr. Huber?
We receive $150,000 a year in grant money from the federal government for upkeep at the Medina Airport. We're able to roll this money over and save it up and apply it toward a project that is approved by the FAA. The next project that we are looking at is resurfacing the transient aircraft parking pad, which is the area where the aircraft park and the helicopter parks up by Route 18. And in addition, construction of a new detention basin on the west side of the airport for purposes of catching surface water runoff from the hard surface at the front area of the airport. That'll put us in compliance with Medina County's surface water plan. The initial part of this project that's in front of you now is $110,000 for the plans and engineering for the resurfacing and the detention basin. We have saved up at this point roughly $350,000 toward the project. I expect the whole project will probably run around $400,000. At this point, we are just starting the process of the plans, and so the amount that the council is approving is $110,000, which allows the mayor to enter into contract with Delta Consulting, our engineers, for the engineering work and the drafting of the plans for this project. Our part of this overall project involves us putting in 10% toward the cost of a project, and the FAA, federal government, picks up the other 90%.
Questions? And all the funds were coming out of that, I guess the airport, the matching funds from the, where's that account number? I don't know what that account number is.
The savings you're talking about?
Yeah. And that 350,000 is more than enough to cover the 35%. 10%, I mean. Which is, right?
350,000 is the federal money, so we have to put in 10% toward the 110, and then the rest comes from the federal government. And then the balance left over from that will be applied toward the actual construction of the project.
Not confused.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any other questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
The other aspect of that, before we get off the topic, we have been selling jet fuel, and the idea is to try to apply some of those profits towards these match monies. And so thus far, we've sold roughly $170,000 worth of jet fuel. I think our profit on that is about $45,000. We give 25% of that to Earl Olson's business for maintaining all this. So hoping we can, well, I'll get with Keith to see if we can pull some money out of our profits and help start trying to use what we're earning in the sale of jet fuel to help us with this match money.
Well, unfortunately, that is correct, but I think the goal would be to pay back what we invested in the jet fuel tank first. I think it was $300,000 or something we had to get paid back
That's a
first.
decision from council. If that's the way you want to do and pay down the debt first, then that's your call.
Because I think we fronted the money from general fund.
We did, we issued an advance from the city to pay for that, and the idea is to pay it back.
And it was about 300, I thought it was 300.
I think that's correct, but I mean,
And we received 45,000 thus far, sounds like what Mr. Huber's saying. So that's a pretty good, and I assume that the jet fuel sales are increasing, I imagine.
Well, I can't say they've been pretty steady, but I don't know if they're dramatically increasing right now, but as more people know about it, we've been open for a year.
So I mean, 45,000 a year is only take us about 8 years.
Well, a portion that goes to,
Oh, no, right.
right.
But, I mean, it seems like
It's doing what it's supposed to do.
It's doing what we're supposed to do.
Right.
That's good.
And hopefully we can get more, with these grants and stuff, the goal would be to get more either helicopters or, I can't get any jets in there anyways, it's too small.
No, I think jets would be great.
Yeah, I'm sure you would. But, I mean, that's good, good news, good news. All right, the next one we have is 1561 Reagan Park Baseball Field renovation. Mr. Worley?
Thank you. This request is to perform renovations of the infields at 5 baseball fields at Reagan Park, specifically fields 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Medina Youth Baseball expressed their concerns regarding the quality of the deteriorating playing surfaces towards the end of last year. And last month when the snow melted, myself and Park Superintendent Don Lahoughton evaluated them. And we do agree that the fields are in need of some additional material that requires laser grading, and that the renovation is necessary. The fields were last reconditioned in 2009, and and typically they're done every 3 to 4 years. But with our upkeep on maintenance, we've been able to stretch that out a little bit. But the soil does break down because of wind and water erosion. So we contacted Agricultural Design, who has historically performed athletic field renovations for the city of Medina, including the townships, Medina City Schools, and many other communities nearby. It's kind of a niche market. In 2009, I pulled up the history. We did go out to bid and had one other interested party that was from Pickerington, Ohio, called Fraser's Field Repair. With our working relationship with Agriculture Design and our experience with their laser grading and pitcher mound construction, as well as field edging, I'm confident that they will serve the city well for this project. Medina Youth Baseball Vice President Chris Wade is here representing the association. I wanted to thank him and their association for contributing to over half of the project, which is one of the budget amendments later on in the agenda.
Yeah, they're going to contribute $11,500 towards the $23,045, which is almost half. This $45 less, but the.
I had that typed out.
But I mean that's good. And you're the other $11,545 is coming from your carry forward account?
It's in our budget and supports fields.
Oh, it's already in your budget.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Move to approve?
Second.
Any other further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 1562 Bicentennial Commons Landscape Enhancements. Mr. Worley?
Thank you. It's been a while since we've talked about this project, from when we designated the area the Bicentennial Commons. At that time, we discussed the landscape concept and moved forward by accepting the donation from the Van Epps for the fountain. Since then, we did order all the fountain components, and Board of Control on December 8th, 2014 approved JTS Landscaping to install the fountain. We're ready to begin construction once we execute a contract, but the reason we're here today is I recently had a meeting with the contractor to discuss the construction plans and how the project would go in phases. One thing that concerned me was that once the fountain is installed, what were we going to do with the remaining portions of the project as our season is about to start up on the square. So in order to prevent the Bicentennial Commons from being under construction all summer, I'm suggesting that we expand the hardscape portion of the project and install the entry wall and sitting wall simultaneously with the fountain. Earlier at Board of Control today, we approved Jim Venus Concrete to install the walkway. With the recent commitment from the Feckley Foundation, as well as other contributions and our brick sales that to date total $13,500, we should be able to fund the project as well as have the Parks Department install grass and some landscape plants to have the project completed prior to Memorial Day, and be able to make the area visually appealing while we continue to raise funds throughout the year for future enhancements. I would like to point out that the contractor who I'm requesting additional monies for has donated $1,000 towards the completion of the project. The amount requested is $10,569 above the 11.3 that was approved in December.
Questions?
Jance, I understand why you're trying to get this
Yeah.
guy in there, get it done. The $1,000 discount, which I think is great, how long are we going to allow him to keep the sign there, his JTS sign?
Well, it's going to be incorporated into the wall in an inconspicuous place, so it doesn't take away from the actual, the donors that are providing private money. And I don't necessarily see it being a conflict of interest because he has every right to buy a brick that has his company's name on it for $500.
So what you have here for that 1,000, is it just going to be a brick, or is it going
It's
to
a
be?
brick.
It's going to be larger than the others, or?
It's a paver that matches the wall that's flipped upright. So it's the same size as all the pavers that are actually in the wall, but it's laser engraved and incorporated into it.
So that'll be there forever then?
Correct.
I had discussions with Jansen earlier, just so everybody knows what I discussed is, my personal opinion, we may want to look at the zoning associated with this, because we just talked about the landscaping and certain restrictions in the code from landscaping, and I don't think we ever rezoned this to public facilities, and if I recall, we had to double check it, but in public facilities, there's a little bit more leeway, I think, with respect to some of the landscaping, and Jonathan, this is kind of what we talked about.
Yeah.
Trying to do a little bit more shield from North Court Street, rather than just have that open, and we talked about arborvitae's or something, but of course, the current code, the way it's set up and the way it's zoned, probably wouldn't allow that because of the distance requirement, but maybe the public facilities, I think, gives a little bit more flexibility to governmental entities in that regard, if I recall, when we adopted it.
The parking lot, I mean, there's not really, the only thing that I would think is if there's any vision obstruction at
Right,
intersections.
right.
So the driveway, are we talking about in the park area south of the building?
Well, we're talking on the west side of the building where the current fence is, maybe not all the way up to the corner, but creating a screen from North Court Street that kind of makes it more of a park feeling rather than just looking at cars.
With
parked-
vegetation, you're talking.
With vegetation, right.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think, there's nothing really in the code that really talks about adding more, or requiring more, or not allowing more. Actually, if you're just doing a regular pad site development of in the C2 zoning, which is the zoning for the property currently, it's a performance standard of if you're adjacent to such and such uses, then you have to provide a screen. And I think there's already the wall there, the half circle wall that I presume we're retaining, that's being retained. So if we wanted to add some extra into the kind of the east side of that wall, the inside of the wall, there shouldn't be any issues. It's already,
Well, I mean, one thing we might look at, Jan, I mean, we're just talking some kind of, the arborvitae's, they get about 10 foot tall in certain areas just for a screening atmosphere, so everybody using the area and looking at the fountain, they're not next to the traffic right next to you, they're 20 feet away. The only other thing I thought, this is my personal opinion, is that the walkway should highlight the fountain, in my opinion, just because the fountain sets a big focal point that coming in, people want to see that fountain. I mean, they're putting a lot of money into it. But again, the walkway, the way it's designed, curves a little bit. I would just make it focus on the fountain a little bit and make it a little wider walkway. I know Brian had a concern. I went out there and looked at the markings on the ground, and I don't know if you had that same question with the...
Well, when I first asked Jansen about it, I thought what was marked out there was a 6 foot, and then he told me it's actually 8 foot. And I was just looking at it, it just doesn't seem very wide. You got families coming in and out of there with potentially strollers or whatever, coming both ways. Not necessarily all the time, but when you have the International Festival, we got 15,000 people out there. I'm starting to wonder if that 8 foot wide, is that going to be wide
People
enough?
going north and south.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are just the concerns. If it could be widened, I don't know if that'll hurt or make it look different. And of course, it'll make it look a little different, but is it going to be filled up all in pavers? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's the goal.
Let's have a soldier course of pavers on the edge of the concrete, so it's actually 8 feet 6 inches. And my only concern with going any wider was that a vehicle could potentially get in there.
Right.
If it was wider.
That would be
than 8
interesting.
Yeah. And I inadvertently deleted the information for the pavers. If we could maybe get an email out again
Yeah.
on that. And I don't know how the sales are going, but, over the last several months, I've talked to a few people.
Yeah.
usually complaining about the rest of them, but when we, the cost, I mean. But when I was explaining what was going on with the fountain and stuff, and they were selling papers, they actually seemed interested in donating.
Yeah, and
money
we've
to buy
only
them.
advertised the pavers on social media, with, through the chamber and the other connections that we have in Main Street Medina. So we're gonna pour the sidewalk going in so that it's set up to have pavers installed. It'll have a concrete base, so basically we'll just pull the soil away when we're ready to install the pavers.
Right.
And the concrete, the base is already poured, we just set them in and install it.
Cool.
What that's gonna allow us to do is to continue selling them, because I think, with all the events that we have up on the square and the increased usage, and then to see the construction taking place.
Right.
I think it will definitely increase.
How are the paper sales going thus far?
It's about 13,500, which is better than I expected for not
Right.
really promoting it.
Right. Thank you.
I got two questions. Will any of those papers be in before Memorial Day?
For what?
Will any of those be in before Memorial Day?
No, we're gonna hold off until probably like midsummer, and then place the first round of order. Because if we installed some of them, we would have to install the entire row, and they're mortared in, so we would essentially be installing blank bricks.
I just
We're
thought
gonna
that'd
wait
be a
until.
good incentive for people that come up for the events to see them already there. It might urge them to sign up for their own. Anyways, my second question was, I keep going back to the width of that sidewalk. How wide are the sidewalks on the square?
6 feet.
Okay. I can tell you from the last 3 years of pushing a stroller around the square, that 6 feet isn't very wide when you got families walking up and down during a special event. I don't know how anybody else feels about it.
I guess my thought on it, I know it is a concern, which is, it was 6 feet, and we increased it to 8 feet 6 inches. My concern was if we overbuild it and there's too much sidewalk, and we plan for, we need 10 feet because during our two largest events, people might be walking on the grass.
Yeah.
That it will visually take away from what we're trying to achieve by, it'll minimize the amount of green space that we can put in by an additional 2 feet.
Plus, you're going to be adding the width of the pavers too.
Yeah.
To the 8 feet, so.
And my only comment we talked about with the fountain, and there's only 5 feet between the fountain and the wall. I don't know I think there should be same if you're gonna do 8, you gotta be able to fit 2 strollers, somebody sitting on a wall with kids, and then somebody trying to get around the fountain.
That's a good point.
So that would be the only comment I have.
The only thing that I would have to add to that is, do we want 2 strollers, do we want 2 wheelchairs? I think wheelchairs tend to be a little wider than strollers.
Unless you have twins.
Yeah.
Okay, got me on that.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because with the existing concrete that's up there right now, there's actually 3 different levels of pavement. With the new concrete pouring that we're doing, the entire area will be ADA compliant and transition to the asphalt without any steps or ramps. So that's another thing that we're
Thank you.
accomplishing with the project. But like I said earlier, Mr. Coyne, is that with the conceptual drawing where we're trying to have concentric circles for the fountain and the sitting wall, the reason why we can't do much larger on the concrete around the fountain itself is because of the lack of space. Because if we increase the sidewalk size, then we have to move the sitting wall closer to the building, and it expands out over half that circle.
Understood, but I just don't want people to come in and it's crowded, they're saying complaining, and who designed this? I mean, larger is always better in a situation where you got people, so that's
But you
just
know,
my opinion.
and I do understand the concerns, but, you get away from the big events, the farmer's market. It's constant, there's people walking, you might have to step out into the grass, that's the only difference.
And Mayor, I know you probably talked about this, but is it gonna be opened up every day from like Memorial Day through Labor Day?
It can be opened up for the farmers markets, for the band concerts, for the events on the square, for the races where they request it to be open, like the marathon that we're running, they want it, they're having a suicide awareness walk, they've requested.
What about the permits on the square? Is it gonna be open up when people?
What about the what?
When people pull permits for the square use, is it gonna be
Yeah,
open up
that's
for
the
all?
things I just mentioned.
All the permits, like weddings and everything?
No.
I mean, my
When they fill out the
Request
permit
fee.
and they want to pay that $100 to open up the restroom, then yeah, we'd open it up for them, even if it's a wedding or something with 5 people. But what we don't want is it's open all the time, and then we have to maintain it and go in and stock it and clean it if there's nothing going on there that's going to get much use of it.
Well, I don't think that cleaning it would be that much, I mean, I guess we'd find out. But I mean, cutting the grass and stuff, that's gonna be a cost too, so I guess, I mean, we're still having cost. So I would rather have it open from end of May, all summer long, through Labor Day at least. I mean, because people come around from different areas of the state, we don't know when they're coming, you know, they may want to use the restroom. I mean, I don't know, that's just my opinion. We paid that much money for it, it should be opened up at least all summer, but.
And I do understand the concerns for the costs, but I think maybe, I don't know how everybody else feels, but I agree with you that at least to see what the costs are actually going to be, you know, I think we're going to run into more problems, not in the winter months because people aren't, I mean, unless there's events going on, but in the summertime, you're probably going to have a lot of the people that have complained about the cost of the bathrooms that they're going to go up and go to use them. If they're up there, you know, for whatever reason during the summertime, and now they're locked.
And that's my only concern on that.
You tell us what you want. When we build it, we said we're going to open it up for events. If we're changing our course now, that's fine. We
Well, I guess I don't know, I mean, we have the one contract with the, I don't know what that society is, it's not the.
Yeah.
The Lake Arc and Medina.
They're gonna be, and I don't know, is it every week, every other week, or?
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. I guess I just don't know, because the square is very important to our community, and I think people come up randomly from different areas, whether it be in the weeknights or weekends, and they all just come around and walk around, and.
Or even today. I mean, there could be somebody that comes up today,
Right.
because they're there. And
I just don't know in the summertime and the cost, you're right, I don't know what the cost is. If it's
Right.
expensive, maybe it's not worth it, but if people treat it with respect, it may be.
But, yeah, understand, yeah, we don't have a good gauge of that yet
Yeah.
until we probably get a season in. But it's not just the stocking and the cleaning, you're running the lights, whether people are using it or not, you know, for that period of time. Like I say, you know, if you guys want us to try it.
I would suggest just trying it for this season, and we can calculate it at the end of the season, what that cost is.
And that's separately metered over there, right, and everything?
Yes.
There is a meter, correct.
Yeah, see what that cost is. My only concern whether it's.
We know
open-
lights can be expensive, don't we, Jim?
Yeah.
Would you do that work, would we do that work with summer employees then?
Yeah.
We have that open?
Because we have park staff that empties the garbage cans on the square every day during the summer. So for them to check the restrooms, make sure they're stocked, make sure garbage is cleaned up, they can do that. When we recommended the Link and the Arc and Medina, that is for a thorough cleaning.
Right.
Floors, windows, everything, top to bottom.
Sure.
So our daily staff will just be checking the stock, cleaning the toilets, but not a thorough cleaning.
And Mayor, are we putting that sculpture, is that going inside inside the atrium? Is that where that children's hospital,
Inside the restroom.
inside the restroom
Yes,
facility?
right.
Are there other concerns, though, other than, if it is open on a regular basis for the summer, other than the cost and the work of maintaining the bathroom and cleaning, is there other concerns about having it open that we're not, thinking about?
The only other thing is then we have to detail a police officer in the evenings when the square clears out, be at 9 o'clock, 9:30, whatever. I don't want the thing open all night.
No, because you have the homeless in here
People
all
start
night.
living there and
Right.
whatnot.
So I agree, in the morning,
So-
open up, shut it at night, or
Right.
at the parks in the morning.
So if we're up there on the weekends with the park staff to open it and check it, then the only thing is in the evenings, we have to have a patrol officer take the time to walk through, make sure nobody's in there and secure it up, shut the lights off. So.
Had we ever discussed the possibility of when we were putting cameras down at the the park security cameras, of putting a camera on the outside there?
We're in the process of.
Oh, okay, good. 'Cause that was my concern again, was.
We just did the ones upstairs for the rotunda area.
Oh, okay.
Brand new cameras. We're working on something first, and then we're going to the bank.
Correct.
Okay.
Is it gonna,
Receiver.
the waiting area inside the restroom and the fountain, is that, or the outside area, is that what you're looking at?
Correct.
I think the lobby area.
The foyer, I call that the foyer,
Or the 40
Yes.
right area?
Right.
is that what you meant?
Yeah, not inside the restroom.
No,
So
reception
Jensen,
area.
so Jensen, you can accommodate that work then with your staff?
Yeah.
Except for the thorough cleaning. That's
Yeah.
run out of work.
Well, I think that's a good idea,
Downtown.
what we did with that.
I mean, I agree with you guys that maybe for this first year, get a feel
That's what I'm.
what the costs are,
That's what we're
because
gonna have to do.
though I didn't support it, I've heard a lot of people say, we'd like to see it open more, so.
Well, I understand the winter, the difficulty of it, and I do understand, I'm not sure why people in the middle of January would be walking around trying to get into there.
It's a public restroom.
Well, I know, but I mean, there's.
By the time they're there, they're hoping that door's open.
I guess.
So, one other thing, Jansen just brought to my attention, so it doesn't make sense to have on the permit $100 fee if you want the restrooms, if we're gonna have the restrooms open 7 days a week.
For the event request.
Well, the only thing I would do is, I mean, in the permit fee itself, if you use the square, I don't know if the fees should be modified to anticipate, not $100, but some amount of money, 10, 15, across the board, just because of the restroom, they're $20, I don't know what, you know what I mean?
We could put waive when restrooms are open. Because I mean, you still have that fee if they're gonna be in the winter?
Yeah, I don't know how many permits are pulled out in winter, but I'm just talking for general use of the square. I mean, that's a new feature that was never there before, that now they have
Now
available.
understand, this $100 isn't for the new restroom, this $100 is what we charged when we were using the firehouse.
The engine house.
So we have not increased that fee, but we were saying if you want us to open, then the rest.
Oh, okay, I see.
So it was $100. So we were trying to see, could we manage with that $100 fee? But it doesn't seem fair to charge those for the restroom if the restroom's open already anyway for anybody else.
I would
to
agree
use.
with that, but I guess my point was maybe the fee to use the event, the permit fee should be raised a little bit to cover that. I don't know, you had concerns over the permit fee before with the sound system, I think it was. But
Well, we did two different things with the sound system. The bass is lower price and the surround sound is higher price. So I think we modified that to what so right now it's $50 for a resident and a $100 deposit. And a non-resident is a $100 fee and a $100 deposit for small groups. And then it goes up in increments of 50, Jansen, or 100? Like if you go to the next level, then there's a third level, depending on the sizes of the crowd.
I believe it's 50.
Yeah, so then it goes to 100. So the first is a small gathering to 200. So then from 200, say 500, 600, I forget what the next cutoff is. And then it goes to 100 city resident, 100 deposits. Deposit remains the same. Outside resident, 150 and 100. So those fees have been in place for as long as I can remember at those levels.
which is odd because the cost of living, the $100 15 years ago is not the same as $100 today.
Correct. So if you think that's something that you would like the council to review, I can have Jansen submit a request for council action. We'll get it on for discussion.
Yeah, maybe you could show us when the fee was first implemented, so we know, I mean, like I said, if it was back in the 90s, we're charging somebody $100, I mean, it's like a steal today,
Yeah.
$100.
No, it's before the 90s.
Oh, was it?
It's for as long as I've been signing
All
them,
right.
so.
So I think maybe we should address that, because that is, it's not even the same ballpark. So to
We could
speak.
also adjust the restroom rates depending on the amount of anticipated use.
Right, less
Because,
people,
if you're
probably
having
less.
1,000 people up there, we're going to have to clean the bathrooms
For sure.
a lot differently than we did if it's
10 people.
10 people.
No, I think maybe we should revisit that. Does everybody agree it's time to probably look at that?
Why don't we think about a little bit more about how much we want them open to, and maybe combine that into that discussion then too.
I mean, yeah, I don't know what everybody else feels. I just feel in the summer they should be open. In the winter, I understand it's more difficult, but at least in the summer, when people are coming all the time, I hope they come all the time. That's available.
I think Jim's right, though. I think it's, when we're gonna look at the fee, maybe we ought to look at the bathroom too, rather than just say,
Because we have
you know,
time.
outright, it's 7 days a week from, May to whenever, because the truth is, we may have, it's no different than a business, maybe Mondays and, Tuesday, it may really need to be open 4 days or 5 days a week, and still really provide 80 or 90% of the service that we want to get for, what we have built. Then we don't know, but, maybe it isn't going to be 7 days a week.
Or maybe also you could figure out a counter, you could figure out how many people go in there.
Meter it?
Not somebody counting it, but whatever, the camera.
Counter on the flush.
The second question that we have is, do we still anticipate that the firehouse and the restroom facilities?
I would say no. That's my personal opinion. I don't think the firehouse should be open if we have the other restroom open.
Because if so, that's just another
Yeah, I don't
place for us to
personally.
check and
For
stock.
for large events,
Yeah.
where they want to open it up for the museum, a lot of.
Well, the firehouse and the museum.
Yeah, I think the blind, plus the folks in the museum.
I agree with that. I don't think they should be both open unless they're. All right, well, if you could submit that, we'll look at that too. And those are my only comments. I don't know if anybody else has any others about the bicentennial.
I don't want to belabor this, but your idea was to screen the north court sign, right?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about? So
Right.
it would be on the east side of the wall.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's probably, I agree, that's a good suggestion. I mean, if you're sitting inside, that would probably be nicer to have a greener view maybe there.
Right.
It's a little bit
Cars.
higher. I don't know what kind of plans. I suppose Jensen could figure that out, but that's probably really,
Because you want to be in the park setting, so you
well,
want to be.
right.
I could foresee that actually being kind of claustrophobic.
Claustrophobic.
Arborvitae's can get really thick and solid.
Well, that's kind of what you want on that
Small
side,
space.
so you don't want to see the.
But I mean, the square itself is very large and open to 4 lanes, four different sides, very large, a very large traffic area. So, and if you want to spend time in there, you probably are okay with the.
Well, I think you're going to be
vehicles
forced to
coming
spend time in there when your family goes to the restroom, or some of them, and you sit outside saying, I'm not.
But we can leave that up, Jensen can probably take a look and
If you're
see
looking
what's
at
the
the
best
fountain,
kind of plan
that's
to put
opposed to
in.
the-
Well, you just-
If
you
you're
cover
right,
the noise.
Arborvitae will make a wall, maybe that isn't what we want, but that's more your area than ours.
People
But I
keep
think the
it.
idea of some sort of a screen is not a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, this is just a suggestion. Anything else?
No.
Is everybody okay with that then, or do you want to?
I think we should discuss it some more.
I know Mr. Huber.
One in every crowd.
Mr. Huber has a lot of discussion on this one. All right, well, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 22,045.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All Opposed?
We, 23 or 10?
You're talking, you're gonna use the 13.5, you're using the 13.5 that you raised to help pay for the cost of the.
Correct.
Yeah.
And Beckley's they agreed to pay for the entrance wall.
Yeah.
But I think we have to appropriate it all to spend it.
I thought we already appropriated 11.3 for the fountain.
I don't know if we did, I don't think we appropriated 11.3 for the
That was appropriated into the account when we got the check from the DNAPs.
But not to spend it though. It was just a donation. We approved the donation.
Okay,
I
so
think it's-
project total says 21.8, and then estimated cost 10.5. Which one am I?
The 11.3 was approved at Board of Control.
Right.
So it didn't have to be
So they-
approved again? Okay, yeah.
Right.
So it's a
So
10, 5, 6.
Correct. That's what the request is for.
And we have 13.5 available.
So you just said,
Right, I did the full amount, so 10,500 is what you need approved.
That was, yes.
10.569.
So that was a second on that one?
That's what it was.
That's what everybody voted yay on?
Yep.
Yay?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. 569. There you go. Okay. Next item is the amendment to the wellness agreement with Medina Hospital. This one. Okay, is that you? Oh, there's my, there you go. Mr. Wright, there you are, you're in the back, okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. This was an agreement we've had in place since 2010. The hospital funded us $20,000 a year to use as as we see fit. We usually introduced an idea, a list of things that we were going to do that year with it, and they approved those as we go. This included things like the Halloween Festival, the Fireworks Festival, ADA compliant equipment, the cubbies, PCs for the health and wellness kiosk, a bunch of different things, including the basketball t-shirts too. They decided last year, back in October, we met again, and that they wanted the funds to go directly to community initiatives. That initiative is now helping Medina. So we're going to make a change to the agreement. Originally, it was just an amendment, but Greg did suggest to go ahead and just retype the agreement, which was easier, just to put it all into one. So we typed up this new agreement, which is what I put on the table in front of you earlier. If you've seen that wellness agreement. And it's basically just locking down what we're going to use the funds for, and stating that that's all they want the funds to go towards.
Thank you.
Question?
Move to approve.
Second?
You need it subject to law director's approval.
Subject to law director approval?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor, subject to law director approval?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 1564 OD and our contract for the handicap parking spaces. Mr. Wright?
Thank you, Mr. President. ODNR has requested we agree to pay back this $30,000 in funding in the event that the schools were to rescind their 50-year contract, the lease that we have with them now. As far as I'm concerned, it's just it seems easy enough. I mean, they're saying if in 15 years all of a sudden we get kicked out, that we reimburse the $30,000. So just want to introduce this, have it approved. Greg does have to go over it again, once again approved by the law directors upon his approval. So that's all it's for. We did discuss whether or not to set the $30,000 aside, whether we should discuss that. I personally don't see it as a necessity to do that, but if Keith thinks that's something we should put in a PO for 15 years, 30 grand, it seems kind of unnecessary, but.
We'll probably take 0.5% out of the recreation fund to cover it.
So this was a problem that we ran into with the state. I mean, we're kind of aggravating for us because Senator Ophoff pushed this thing through with $30,000 of state funding, and then we get hung up with this parks group down there that says we're not allowed to give money to the state or to the schools for something like that. And we're telling them it's not the schools. We have a 50-year lease. We send them the entire copy of the lease. They have their law people look at it and say, yeah, but if they get rid of you before the 50 years, it's that's the whole purpose of the lease. They can't.
They can't.
But just for the council, because I can recall, the joint operating agreement was signed in August of 2001. The term starts after the rec center is open, which opened at the end of 2002. So the 50-year lease is in effect until December 31st. It goes to the end of that 50th year, then December 31st of 2052. So they said the only way they'll give us $30,000 is if we agree that if we leave there within 15 years and revert those spaces back to the school, then we'll pay them back the $30,000.
So through 2052, if we leave before 2050?
No, 15 years.
Oh, 15,
Today.
okay. Like I said, 50, okay.
15 years from whenever we get the 30,000.
I got you.
I think it's pretty safe.
Mike?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, the two good things that come out of it, obviously, the 30,000 in handicap parking spaces, which are needed highly at the rec center. And then, of course, they said over the years, they've turned down these grants or these funds to other, facilities asking for the same thing or something close to it. So this will open up a whole new, category for them to allow people to, get that funding as long as they agree to this contract. So it's new.
Okay.
And this is 8 spaces, Mike?
8 to 9, depending on how CAP draws them out.
Move to approve.
Second?
Subject to law director's approval?
Subject to law director's approval.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 1565 is 2015-28 field improvements for Mana Youth Baseball. We spoke about this earlier. This is the appropriation of those funds,
Move to approve.
Second.
or accepting of the donation of those funds. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 1567, a payment over $3,000 for Trident Insurance Services. Keith?
Just wanted to do that now. We have to get council approval because it's over 3,000. It's part of our deductible on employment practices liability.
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second, including the emergency clause.
Any further discussion? All in favor with the emergency clause?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1568, the bids of the 2015 concrete street repair. Patrick?
Thank you. This is our annual program, the miscellaneous street repair throughout the city. Again, this year we're asking for a total of $600,000, 25 of which will be from the water department to take care of the repairs due to water breaks.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Sir,
Mark?
typo in the top section under street funding, should that be 575?
It should be, yeah, that was a typo.
Okay.
Move to approve as modified.
Second is modified.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1569, 2015 concrete pavement joint sealing. Patrick?
This again is an annual program. This is designed to maintain our concrete pavements. We're again asking for $75,000 for this project.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1570, memo of understanding with Medina County Soil and Water. Patrick?
As part of our permit from the Ohio EPA, our stormwater permit, we're required to do certain tasks all year long. There are basically 6 different categories. For the 5 years that we've had our permit, we've had Medina County Soil and Water Conservation District perform 2 of those, specifically related to public information and public education. They do this at a cost. We pay them $4,000 a year. They're asking to renew because it's a new 5-year permit cycle, another MOU with them. They have the same agreement with most of the other communities in the county that require this service, Brunswick, Wadsworth, a number of the townships.
Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 1571, agreement with Railroad, ORDC, and Puco West Smith Rail Crossing. Patrick?
This is for the crossing between Lake and Commerce. PUCO came out and determined that gates do need to be installed at that location. This is the agreement between the railroad, us, ORDC, and PUCO. Typically, we, as the local authority, are required to have some sort of financial participation. This particular agreement, the ORDC is picking up what normally would be the local participation, so we do not have any costs. We just need to sign the agreement, authorized to work together.
And that's West Smith and Commerce, not Lake and Commerce.
It's right, West Smith between Lake and Commerce.
Okay.
Questions?
If I understand this correctly, Patrick, we have no skin in this game at all. We don't pay for any maintenance, no construction, nothing.
The
This is
railroad
all-
maintained it in perpetuity, and Guilford is another one that PUCO determined we were going to do. We are we are picking up a portion of that cost to install. This one, for whatever reason, we don't have to.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Addition on the end here is 1573, bid authorization with Wadsworth Medina County Recyclables. Mr. Coley?
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate you allowing this to go on for discussion, at least I know it was last minute. I was chatting with the mayor, this came out, the bid was let on April 10th. There was been discussion with the county on this bid coming out. We weren't sure when, and the first we understood that it came out was Friday 10th. It's due the 27th, so that's why the last minute request. In short, my counterpart, Robert Patrick, Service Director for WADS, has been asking me about joint bid, potential for a joint bid for the recycling bids that the county is proposing with their single stream recycling drop-off centers throughout the county. So with that, as the request speaks to, we're asking for authorization to assess and evaluate. And of course, council would have to prove it if we would be the successful bidder, if we were awarded the contract. from looking at the, it's an RFB, request for bid. Now, it appears there's 53 locations and approximately 70 bins. What I talked about with Robert from Wadsworth is that we would split the county in half. We would probably take care of Medina City. Obviously, there's 13 bins proposed with 8 locations. In Brunswick alone, there's 20 bins and 14 locations. So we would take care, respectfully, the northern half of the county, and Wadsworth would be responsible for the southern half in their area.
One thing that was in there that kind of gave me a little concern is that they talked about this MC-18 and revisiting and modifying the plan 1st of February of 2016. However, this has a minimum bid or a minimum term of 3 years.
Correct.
So this contract, so I guess I don't understand how, if we were to go back on MC-18 and modify things, it would at least be 3 years, according to what they're talking about, before anything will be changed in the plan. So,
This is a 3-year bid with, I believe, 2 1-year extensions thereafter if
so
the
5 years.
district so
the
chooses.
district. So I guess I'm a little concerned that they told us that it would be, we could change the plan right away in 2016, but we can't change this, of course, because it's a 3-year contract.
This,
You're surprised they weren't truthful?
Well, I thought they told us that.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that ties.
I thought we'd be able to change it, but evidently we're not
Sorry.
able to change it.
it's fine. This is, you're reviewing this, you're looking into this.
We are,
This is something that will come back to us to vote on.
absolutely.
This is to determine whether this could be something that would be beneficial to us in the short, I guess it would be beneficial to us economically in the short term.
No, what we'll do, I think we're, the time to come back to vote, because we gotta give them authority to enter it, because it's just due, it's only a 2-week period, they don't even give you.
If we win the bid,
That's
we'll just come back.
3:30 on the 27th. Your next meeting is the 27th at 5.
So, Nino, were you involved in any of the discussions with the county regarding putting this together?
Absolutely
The
not.
time limits and the RFP?
No.
It was an RFP?
RFB, request for bids. There's numerous requirements that are with respect to the statement of qualifications and experience portion of this bid that we're going to have to work through. But to answer your question, I did not know as we went to the oral comment period. I learned that evening they would be coming out and wasn't sure, and then we saw it in the paper in the Gazette on the 10th, on Friday.
So the first you heard about it, the first you knew about it was when it came out in the paper?
That I knew was being let,
That
correct?
you knew it was being let?
Yes,
And so we'd have to approve this now, tonight?
that's correct. For
And
the-
we had no, like, engagement with the county about how this was going to be put together, or the time limit? You know, I mean, 3 years is a long time. I mean, we were all here, I think, when they talked about come January or February 2016, everything was on the table to revisit this entire thing. And we understand, I think, that this is probably, I don't know, in the time I'll be here, in the time many of us will be here, this is probably the most important, costly, long-term that we will engage in. This is so significant to the city, both operationally and economically, and you know, with all the talk about recyclables and all the other stuff that goes into it. And this is 3 years.
As I read it, as we discussed, correct, at a minimum.
3 to 5. Yeah, 3 is the minimum.
So how do you then go back in 2016 and revisit everything?
Well, you revisit something.
You revisit some things,
Yes.
but we don't revisit everything.
Right.
Because we've had, you know, you guys have all had these conversations, and you know, I have great admiration for Adam Frederick, and he's an honest and forthright guy, and I think he's a good public servant. But, you know, most of this information that we're getting from the county seems either inaccurate or accurate only for a moment, and then it seems to change one more time. And now we appear to be locking in, at least in some portion, into this, and I think that that's part and parcel, if not the entire reason that I think that we do not want to engage, you know, with the county in this program.
So you think that we should not do the hauling for them?
No, I think we may have to do the hauling for them. I mean, I think that may be something that we will do, but I don't think we want to approve it. I don't think we want to consider buying into what the county is talking about doing.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And I just see that this is like this is we're being tied to, this is one time, they're going to tie us to this. This is the first thing that will tie us to the program.
Well, the only
This is
thing-
our choice, though, right here.
Yeah, this is our choice to do
It
this.
it is our choice, but it's our choice then to be locked into it for 3 to 5 years.
If we're successful.
I gotta look.
Go ahead, Mark.
If we do get the bid and it comes back here and maybe there's something that council doesn't feel comfortable with and we don't vote to do the service, what kind of penalty do we get?
This is, we'll have to run.
Normally,
this
there'd be a
through.
performance bond, and I mean, like, when we have a bid, there's a performance bond, and the penalty would be the difference between, if we were the successful, like, if we have a bid or not perform, say they bid to do a project for $100,000 and the next low is 125, we collect a performance bond to cover ourselves for that difference.
Well, this is just like commercial hauling. I mean, I don't see anything different than this. This is providing a service to haul.
That's what we do every day. We do this 6 days a week currently.
And the only difference is, that I like about it, we know where the recyclables are going. At least we have control of that.
Well, we have control of our own destiny as
Right.
opposed to an outside contractor where
Right.
we don't. If the council would feel better, I understand this is, and we didn't create this timeline. If the council would feel better, the only other way to resolve it is to have a special meeting before the due date of the bid, which is the 27th. And it's the 27th at 3:30. So it's
So we have to meet the
any of
week before.
scheduled meetings, so we'd have to have one midstream.
And we could probably have that prior to a budget meeting that we have or something, if you guys want to do that, a special council meeting, just for this issue. That would be the only logical meeting time to do it.
I think we're going to be canceling another budget meeting.
But we are.
What would we gain, though? I mean, what would, if we wait?
Well, there's a profit to be made, just like the.
No, I mean,
No,
what
but
would
we-
we gain by, we have this decision that's kind of thrust upon us, what would we gain then by saying, okay, let's wait a week or two? I mean, I don't know that we're going to gain anything by that.
Well, you know, the analysis that Nino and Patrick did, what we're estimating our labor costs, our gas costs are, by the time we take into account all of these different locations, and then haul them back and forth to the CPF. So I think we'd have a much better number that we could share. Now, the problem with that is, as I'm thinking this through, now we're in a public meeting talking about our numbers when the other bidders
Yeah,
haven't
we don't wanna
submitted
do
their
that.
bids.
That's why I didn't say a whole lot tonight with respect to.
Well, I guess the question is, we're not going to do it till we lose money. I mean, that's a given. It's-
Or break
no-
even.
No bidder's going to do that, right? There's going to be a profit built into it, just like every private hauler will bid a profit to be built into their services.
It's just like when we look
Same-
at bid
same exact thing.
on a building at an auction. I mean, it's the same problem. You're going to announce at a public meeting that our bid is X amount of dollars, and any private hauler that wants to bid it can attend that meeting and bid one penny less. I mean, there's nothing.
So Nino, are you comfortable then if we pass it now, or would you prefer that we waited until you have more time to look
I
at
mean, he
it?
doesn't have to do it. I mean, he can make the determination, administration can make the determination not to
You're
do
doing
it.
what-
Correct.
So we don't really need to wait.
As long as you have the trust, I mean, we're not going to try to bind you to anything
Okay.
that doesn't make sense.
Well, there's going to be a profit built in. It's not going to be a break even. I mean, we're not going to do it to lose money or not make money. That wouldn't make
That's right,
sense.
guys.
So, I don't have a problem.
Okay.
You guys have a problem?
I agree, as long as Nino sees that, yes, if we can't, then we just cut it off and don't pursue it any further.
Bless you, bless you.
Bless you.
Everybody okay with that?
Where's the money go that we make on this?
Probably sanitation department.
It'll be in the sanitation fund. We talked a little bit, we keep, similar to our roll-off funds, as we have customers in the roll-off accounts and the various rear loaders set up the same way, I understand.
It'd just be a division of it would be just a new activity of the sanitation department, same personnel, same equipment, same budget, and then revenue would be in there.
I'm just worried about wear and tear on vehicles, time.
Yes.
gas.
Well, we have additional money for this.
Well, I know, it's-
And the cost.
That's why we're doing it, I guess. All right, any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
The emergency clause?
Human second includes emergency clause, I'm sorry. I spoke.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Thank you
Opposed?
for that. Thanks for the mayor for the help on this.
Carries. All right, we're doing the executive session now. Do we have time, 10 minutes?
Regular session.